promotion and advertising, your technical specs of the car, and your financials, and your, most importantly, just what Sean just said, your return on your investment. Those are the absolute key areas to get you guys started. Everything after that, that's how you make the presentation yours and how you sell to judges. So I think with that, we will take questions. Anybody? Yes?
Question. So the points that you said right now, like marketing, research, financials, does that include like the manufacturing, like, oh, we're going to have this this area, this, I don't know, this center for manufacture? Yeah. Do we have to be too specific in that, or can we just overview it?
You can get as detailed as you want, but we've kind of given you 5 areas. So if you split it out, you figure you got an introduction and a conclusion that are going to be 30 seconds to a minute. So figure a minute and a half per topic. Show me a plant layout, right? Just quick, doesn't have to be anything excessive. A plant layout, say these are areas for welding, this is where we do our machining, this is assembly, and you know, if you're asking for a lot of money, manufacturing isn't cheap. What are some of the highlights of the equipment you need?
I'd also like to emphasize too, I saw a number of times yesterday where judges, if a team had a plant layout or a team had a process flow identified for their manufacturing process, judges were going to ask questions about it. So make sure you understand lean manufacturing, make sure you understand just in time, make sure you understand how your flow is going to work and how you can save costs in your processes, save costs in your materials, save costs everywhere, because that was a popular topic as well. So, anybody else? Yeah.
I've been working on presentation for several years for my team, and one issue that has plagued us every year is the number of cars we produce. In the rules, it says 1,000 cars per year. That's what it costs in our interpretation. And I'm doing market research, and I do my own interpretation of the number of cars produced and the ramp every year. And I'm desperate, honestly, for a firm answer on, should we use our own market research or use 1,000 cars per year?
Yep. The judges assume that you are looking at 1,000 cars produced annually. It's not. All right. Hold on. Okay. This is a very confusing topic, but it's in the rules at the beginning of the competition, but it doesn't specify it in the presentation event description. That's something that we talked about this year as well. We didn't get it in the rules to change it, but we did instruct the judges that it is 1,000 cars produced annually. So to assume financial numbers by. I understand that, and that's why it is ambiguous. And we realize that, even though it's in the in the initial portion of the rules that the competition operates on 1,000 or 1,200 units per year. It's not called out specifically in the presentation event description, and we realize that as being a problem.
That being said, that it's not in the rules for presentation, I've never dinged a team for having 200 cars a year or 50 cars a year or 1,000. It's, you do your market research, you develop your plan, and get your numbers based on your plan, and then we'll go with that. The reason being is that under the rules, it doesn't say 1,000 cars for the presentation. So I've never, and the teams I've been with, have never penalized a team for not being 1,000 cars.
And that being said, just to reiterate what Sean's point is, make sure your numbers line up. So, anybody else? Yeah.
Just organize, do you think in future you could manage to provide anything like a projector in there? Because for you guys, I think you lose so much time in there, every team getting the projector set up and everything. And just for us as an overseas team, it's always some kind of difficult to manage to bring it along, because I don't want to put it in our transportation box, it's too expensive, and as well not in the hand package. So, do you think it's manageable?
You know what, we can bring it up. I can tell you that I can't guarantee that it's even going to happen, because you're talking about 9 projectors that the FSAE has to purchase and maintain. And so I'll bring it up. So we'll see what they say. All right? No, absolutely. Anybody else? Yeah.
I might have another idea. You were saying it would be good to know your audience.
Yeah.
So for design judging, they publish the background of the judges. Do you think that might be considerable for its presentation judges in the future as well?
That's a very good suggestion, actually, and that was made yesterday. And so again, the best way you guys can give feedback on this event, good, bad, constructive, fill out the review forms for Formula SAE and talk to us about the presentation event. So we read them, and in that sort of point, definitely would be considered. There's also points being brought up about longer judging periods to allow for, more feedback from the judges and allow the judges to converse before they give you feedback. So if that's something you guys are interested in, talk to us about that.
Every year when we come in and we introduce ourselves, who's going to be presenting and stuff, we introduce what we were assuming. We talked about this before. Before we start a presentation, we say we were assuming you have your own facility. Is that okay to tell them that, before they're getting into our presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. Please
say,
do.
hey, you have this facility. We're going to talk more about it in the presentation. Or just so you know, that's what we're presenting to us.
And I was trying to get to that earlier, right? Is that you have to tell us that you're asking for this much money, or you're going to manufacture it, I'm going to manufacture it, or we're going to co-own it and a joint venture in China is going to make it. But you need to tell us what your assumption is, otherwise we'll get to the end and go, okay, well I don't know how much money they wanted and I don't know who's going to make it. So as long as you tell us, then we know.
I'm saying before the presentation starts though, when we're introducing people, I introduce their names and then I say, okay, we're going to be assuming that you have your own facility.
But once you start introducing people, the timer starts. So that's part of your presentation. Once you're set up and you have your slideshow going, right? Just the open screen. As soon as you introduce people, you start. The timer's going.
It's always been a little different. We've always come in and as we're setting up, we're introducing people.
Some teams do that. I can talk to you about this afterwards if you'd like.
I think he has a good point because a lot of us go in and we've done it the same year to year and we're just keeping up with that same type of tradition, but you don't know exactly how what we're assuming you are to be, what type of customer are you, and so maybe on the application form, say what are our assumptions, and we say we're assuming that you are going to purchase our patent and go and manufacture it. Is that possible so that the judges beforehand know about it, or
put it on your second slide. Once you give us an organization, put it on the slide. And you have to you're assuming that based on I think the minimum number I saw from a team for what they were looking for was 500,000 or 2 million. You're assuming we're venture capitalists. So you're assuming that we're people that have money but may not have manufacturing, may be entirely tied up in stocks. So you can't assume we have anything, but you can assume that you can be selling it to us so that we'll make it, but you have to tell us that in your presentation.
And it's important to reiterate that you can do any one of these paths. You can pitch to VCs, you can pitch to manufacturing companies, you can pitch to whomever you want. The key is building your case for it. That's what this event is all about. That's the reason it's supposed to be ambiguous in the rules, because we want you guys to be creative. So, I think there's another person, yeah.
Is there any way next year we could potentially get bigger rooms? I know our room was so small that we could barely fit all the people that we wanted.
Do you remember which room you were
I
in?
think I was in G or something.
Okay.
It was really tiny.
We can definitely talk about that. There are some more rooms. I don't know what the logistics are in using those rooms. Put it on your feedback form. Yes?
There's a car on the track every year, and then there's a car in the presentation. How closely aligned do those two cars have to be?
0.
Thank you.
Will you notify us beforehand who's going to be presenting tonight, so maybe we can look at their cars until we watch?
What it will be tonight, so does everybody understand the presentation highlights this evening? So top three scoring teams rather, in the presentation event are required this year to do their presentation starting at 6:15 this evening. It's going to be here in the main tent. We definitely encourage you to come. It's allowed to be videotaped. And anyways, to answer...
It was just a question of the top three, so we know who they are. But we can look at
presentation scores will be posted way prior to 6:15, so it'll be the top three. Yeah, you'll have to. It'll be the same exact layout as the presentation event is run.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
One question about the handout. It's supposed to be designed so that the judges can read it and then when they're evaluating, to go over the details, or just for during the presentation.
This I'll let these guys answer mostly, but I'll tell you, I've seen a few instances where teams have handed out the handout at the beginning of the presentation, handed out the handout at the end of the presentation, and I think it's largely or handed out the handout in the middle of the presentation if it had information that they wanted to attract to a certain portion of the presentation. And so I think it's really dependent upon what you have in the handout, where you're going to hand it out, and what you want the judges to use it for. So, but these guys can answer that.
Open to interpretation. I've had binders given to me, 100 pages of documents in there that show a business plan going out 20 years. I've had pamphlets that they're going to give out at a racetrack to people that are interested in the car. So it's whatever you guys want to put it in. Some people will have slides and then text below it that they didn't necessarily speak to. So it'll be extra information based on that slide on there. That has gone both ways. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, because then it's like, well, you didn't talk about it during your presentation, but it's right here, but you didn't talk about it, so technically you're kind of missing your content. So it's up to you guys, and it's fully open to interpretation.
How much does that influence it after the presentation? Like, depending, like you that one-page binder with a 20-page plan, I'm assuming they didn't cover all that in 10 minutes. So how much of the score does that influence after the presentation is done and over?
Very little. To me, it's very little, but it depends. Everybody's is different. Like, one of them that we saw yesterday was unbelievable, professional, something you expect that this guy is going to a bank or something else, that it's not a competition. It was unbelievably professional. You want it to be used during the presentation. So you can have your slides, or you can have it broken down like a book, and each slide is a chapter in the book. So that then you're like, hey, go to section 4, and we have more information on our manufacturing plan, including a layout, equipment, blah, blah, whatever else you want to put in there. It's really up to you guys how you want to use it, and it's a real tool to have more information than what you can talk about in 10 minutes.
I'd say the key aspect here is that the idea behind this event is to sell your audience on whatever it is that you're trying to sell them. So, however you do that, however you think is best to do that, please do. I think you were next, and then a couple out here.
Just a question, as far as tonight the team's presenting, will we be able to not like have copies of theirs, but to be able to look through it? It might be beneficial, not just for like, if we put a strong effort in our binder that we hand out, but just like maybe we're missing a couple of things that maybe like we could see in there. Just like
as of right now, we've not required that of these teams. You are more than welcome, obviously, to ask them if they're willing to provide that for you. But the requirement for tonight is for them to do their presentation in front of the audience. So there's a couple hands out here.
Going back to the handout, you said obviously you should refer to what you have in the handout, and then if obviously you're not going to go read 20 pages if it's not covered during the presentation, but after the 10 minutes, are you going to look at the handout if we didn't cover everything on it?
If you don't cover everything in the 10 minutes, we're not going to look at it. You're going to get marked for not making your content. What I mean is say, okay, I'm talking, I've got my manufacturing plan up here, this is our layout, this is the space, and if you want to know what equipment we need, please refer to section 4, page 3. Business plan. here is our ideal. This is what we want. I need $20 million this year. Your payback is in 5 years. This is what you're going to earn back per year. Blah, 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 whatever else. If you'd like to look at my 10-year plan, refer to page section 4, page whatever. That's kind of, that way you can use it. And you can refer to it, right? It's if you have the data in the booklet, you don't have to present it and talk to it, because we are asking for you guys to talk about a lot in 10 minutes. So if you have it in a booklet and tell us to just refer to it, we'll quickly look at it, go, hey, yeah, that makes sense. I like it. And then and by that point, you guys have already changed slides, and we can be looking at the next topic, or you have a slide that's got more detail about what you were just talking about.
Will we be able to hear the critique of the presentations that we hear tonight? Because for instance, our judges said handout at the end, not in the middle or at the beginning, because then I'm just going to flip through it and not have attention to you. So I guess there's mixed feelings and mixed reviews obviously that's going on. So how are we supposed to know how to improve upon what they're presenting to us? You know what I mean?
Well, I can tell you tonight that the plan is not to critique them in front of the judges. But if I were you, and I were interested in hearing some sort of critique, there's going to be judges here this evening, so you may want to grab one of them before the event and see what they thought of it afterwards. So this was kind of the first year for this event. We wanted to try it out. So if there's things that you want to see added or taken away, please let us know. So,
You already know who the top 3 are? Not that I'm asking, but do you know if they're all from the same queue or each from a different queue?
No, we don't have that information yet.
All right. If there's more than one team from the same queue,
You're talking about basically a queue that was a little bit of a different, or
how they were judged.
easy scoring versus
not necessarily
absolutely.
easy scoring, but just between the 3 of you right now, how you like things is completely different.
The way scoring is done for this event is that there's a normalizing process across all the queues to try to take into account any discrepancies from queue to queue. So I think over the years that this has been done, occasionally they've seen queues that scored higher than others. I can tell you last year when we did the scoring, we didn't see that. And this year, as we finish up the scoring, we're going to definitely take that into account. Try to normalize the scores, try to be fair.
We understand your concern, but we also don't know who's going to come in and knock us off our feet. Unfortunately, there will be queues that everybody's probably going to get scored. Our score sheet is for 50 points. So you'll get 30 points or less. One whole room will get that. And it's just because, no shows, or you're just not getting the content, it's not done very well. And it's happened that generally you see a range in all rooms. Sometimes it's in the middle, or sometimes you end up with 3 teams in that room that are all stellar. And we understand the concern, but we have no idea what we're going to get. So it is very difficult, but I can tell you that in the time I've been doing this, the judges can generally come to the same consensus at the end of it, and you'll either know by looking at, as a judge, I'll look at the fellow judges I have, and we'll know whether we think that's a knockout or if that left a lot to be desired. And we give that feedback to these guys. We tell them at the end of the day, we can tell them directly, I think this team won, right? And so they know what our room was like. So if they see that everybody from room whatever had 40 points, they're average. It's going to get taken into account.
Anybody else? There's one right there and there's one in the back. Go ahead. I don't know if there has been in the past, but like I said, it was brought up yesterday as well. And there was definitely some positive points for doing it. So if you guys think it's valuable...
I didn't hear the question.
What was the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. The question was, has there ever been any consideration for increasing the time limit? So I assume are you talking about the 10-minute slot? I don't know historically if there has been, to be honest with you. But if that's something that you feel adds value, please let us know. So we all realize, I remember I did this event as a competitor as well for a number of years. And I remember we did some mock events with one of our sponsors and their marketing department. And they were extremely surprised at how much information we had to and could cover in 10 minutes. And I think they were blown away by the fact that we only had 10 minutes to do it as well. So if it's something that you think needs to be added or changed, please let us know. There was a question way in the back, I think, too. No? Okay. Yes?
How many judges will there be in each room?
Question is, how many judges will there be in each room? Usually ranges anywhere from 2 to 4. Depends very much so on how many volunteers we have. This year we had more judges than last year, so we had between 3 and 4 judges, 4 in many cases, in fact, in every room. So if we have the volunteers, you'll get more judges.
Along that line, like we're budget constrained on like printing and stuff. So
Right.
we only print 3 handouts. There's 4 judges. I mean, is that our fault or is that?
No.
I've had that one time, like 3 years ago, where we only had 3 and there's 4 judges and we still did this.
No, but I will give you, I understand exactly what you're saying, because
Expensive.
it is very expensive, and coming to comp is very expensive, period, for teams. I will definitely say that if you can, I would make every effort to make the best first impression that you can amongst the judges. So I'll give you that piece of advice. That's it. Yes?
Would you like to have both an engineer and a business professional in giving the presentation, or is it just one person allowed to give the presentation?
It's totally up to you guys.
Oh,
I'd say the only words of wisdom I can give you on this one is that if you have more than one person, make sure that your transitions are not like every sentence between the 2 individuals, and make sure that you try to smooth the transitions back and forth. And that I would suggest that you pick topics that you're familiar with and have those individuals present on those topics. So, yeah.
Is it frowned upon to have a technical assistant have somebody's not as familiar with the engineering side as the business side? Or the technical assistant doesn't say much until Q&A?
No, that is 100% allowed and encouraged. That's the reason for the rules being written in the fashion that you have to introduce everybody you bring into the room. The rules are written in a way that you can bring your entire team into the room if you really wanted to. That obviously may present some other issues, but the key is make sure that you introduce whoever is going to be speaking at any time during the presentation or the Q&A period. If you do that, it's not frowned upon at all. So. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you all very much for sitting here. Listen to us blabber.